First things first, right? Is recession going to come, or is the inflationary trend going to remain? Here is the IMF forecast, where the GDP global growth rate, which was 6% in 2021, it's already dipped to 3 point something, and it's going to dip further, the forecast, into 2023. The dotted line is the adverse scenario, which can go as low as 1%, hopefully not. But as you can see, there is a recovery in 2024 coming back to the 2022 numbers. Definitely, there is a dip into 2023. It is good for all of us to be prepared. The question today is, how do we manage our business, and what should be our key North Star directions, particularly from product perspective, because product is the hero in any fashion and lifestyle business, and for that matter, any retail business. And this is a HubSpot research. Let's look at some numbers. Consumers were asked in the US, how has this news of potential recession impacted your spending habits? As you can see here, more than close to 60% of the consumers are already conscious, and and they are avoiding purchasing, or they are purchasing less. Right? We are talking about close to 70% of that is already happening. Another question was, if a recession is actually declared, how will your home budget change? Right? This is in case it happens. Even here, you can say that close to 65% of the spend is going to come down. Therefore, close to 2/3 of consumers are going to either consciously spend or spend less. Now, that's definitely a reality which is hitting us pretty soon. And with our lead times of planning next year is significantly high, so it's important for us to see how do we manage this. Now, what's the impact of this, and where consumers are going to spend more and spend less? Now, it's common that discretionary spending will be down, and it's going to impact two dimensions. One, where will the consumer spend their money? And second is their frequency of purchase, right? For example, already leading retailers in the US, they have announced that their consumers have started spending more on essentials and less on discretionary category, and fashion falls under discretionary categories. And hence, there is going to be an impact. And the frequency of purchase is also going to come down. Now, what this means to a brand or a retailer? One is, when the demand is going to shrink a bit, we really need to, there's going to be minimal resources, because there are some areas we will not be able to cut down. And hence, most of the brands are thinking about right now rationalizing their assortment. What does that mean is, basically, you're shrinking the assortment. And when you shrink an assortment, you're not going to have a high margin of error. Now, this is always true, but it's more true right now. I keep saying that whenever the water level comes down, the stones are visible. And we are going to reach that scenario where the resources are going to come under constraint. Therefore, what to do and what not to do, and how do you choose the right thing to do, right? That's going to be very, very important from a product selection perspective. And it starts from design creation into buying, right? And what are we going to spot from a trend perspective? And what are we going to adopt out of that? And how responsive we want to be, how proactive we want to be, how reactive we want to be. It's going to be important, but we are going to be going through a phase which is not going to be very certain. It's going to go through some phases of uncertainty. So I would say it may not be as bad as COVID, but definitely making ourselves nimble and responsive is going to be important. Now, proactive approach than waiting for things to happen, it's definitely the right way to do. And if we play this very smart, not only that we will stay afloat and actually win higher, there is enough research that people who exploited the recessionary periods, this is after multiple recessionary trends over long periods of time, those who, and best of companies, including Google, started during recession periods. So this is the time for incubating ideas and also cleaning up the entire system. And those companies who do that well during this period come back as a winner once you bounce back out of recession. Now, how do we prepare to win during this period? I call this a 3A framework. Now, which means that we are going to be doing less, not more. Hence, we need to be choosing better. If you're choosing better, we need to be more accurate. Now, this accuracy plays out across the value chain. Today, I'll focus a lot on product assortment. But of course, one needs to be accurate across what do we make, and accurate also for whom do we make and where do we put. It's relevant across the value chain, but we'll focus a lot more on the accuracy of assortment. Second, not only accuracy is important because we can't be accurate but take too much time to get there. For agility is going to be important. For can we be faster? Can our supply go-to-market calendars shrink during this period better than ever before? It's all the more because whenever you have uncertainty, I think they're good to crash. I do know that we have lots of supply chain disruption, but I think agility, even at a slightly higher cost, would pay off compared to a rigid, long lead time supply chain for sure. And the last one is, how does one adapt? When things change frequently, it's just not the speed, and also constantly correcting on changes in the real world environment. For it comes together. For if you are accurate, agile, and adapt, the probability of winning is really, really high. Of course, everybody will face the challenge, but those who do this really well will come out of the crowd and also gain a larger share of the available wallet, which is shrinking. With that, we look at, what is the North Star for accuracy? Let's go through all the three dimensions one by one. The singular North Star is consumer at the center. Now, we've been used to consumer obsession is one way of North Star, but I think the direction is, can we be our customers? Can we be our consumer? Which means so deeply we understand them that we are bringing propositions which they completely love. They really want to have it, and you will have the lowest amount of supply-demand gap. Now, easier said than done. I think we are going to go through some ways that this can done. May not be the only way, but definitely I'm going to share with you what could be that way, which is definitely better than the current baseline. So this is what we enable at Stylumia, where we bring in a consumer eye for your decision making, right from the trend spotting to buying and merchandising across the value chain. Now, how does that work? So we created huge impact so far, but it's pretty small in the overall scheme of potential, which is available. Huge amount of products that we have eliminated going into either markdowns or into landfill. Improve the inventory turns and full price sell through the business. And these are the metrics that we would look for, any brand would look for these days, right? And how do we be more effective for an invested capital in products? For what does this call for is a fundamental shift. We're calling that as a mindset of B2C to C2B, right? For we do take a lot of decisions on behalf of our consumer. Now, the question here is, can consumer come upfront? Now, what does that mean is, there is today a way of, trend spotting, understanding what's happening, what will happen in the future. Now, when we started Stylumia 6 years back, we did evaluate all the current tools and the current practices. There's one thing which, first of all, we could appreciate the amount of challenge which is there in managing and forecasting this business, which is so variable in demand, and also having a long lead time. And that's the biggest challenge in the business. Having said that, what we saw was all the inputs which are getting into the forecast of the future, where most of them are supply driven, in the sense all our observations are what is available, right? And what is available is half incorrect. Just to give you some numbers, where out of 150 billion garments made in the industry every year, 50 billion garments go to landfill, right? That's a huge amount, and fair amount of them don't sell at full price, and roughly 1 out of 2 do not do that. And we have a coin toss probability of success as an industry, and we do waste a lot. Now, the question is, can we bring consumer insights into the process on an ongoing basis to improve this probability of success? And that's a C2B proposition. And this is what we talked about, where huge amount of products get wasted. And how can we use consumer data? Now, again, easier said than done. How do we get on a dynamic basis consumer data? I can only get what's available. Now, brands don't share their data with all of us. You can scrape any data from the websites or any digital sources online, but that's one way. There are tools available like that. But our only question to you is, when you see all the data, what others are doing, that's only what they are supplying. How do you know their demand? Now, not knowing the demand is a huge error. And I'm going to share with you some of the accuracy differences between following supply and following demand. Now, if you have to solve the problem of getting the relevant products and minimizing wastage, we have to solve two problems. One is the what problem, which is what to spot, what to make, which is the product selection, creation, assortment problem. And the second one is how much to make, which is a quantitative problem. For we can make, there is no bad product if we made the right quantity. I'll just say that again. There is no bad product if you made the right quantity. In other words, every design has its own threshold volume that it can sell. If you make the right quantity, we'll all have very good full price sell-through. Now, hence, how much is as important a problem to solve as what, right? So we'll go through the what problem to start with, and how do we do that better, augmenting the existing process. For one of our solutions is a consumer intelligence tool. We work with over 100 brands and retailers globally. And what our customers, what we provide is we give them demand insights of across various dimensions by geography of what's working, what's not working, not of today, and also predictive for future and what the future trend would look like. I just want to share with you how that engine works. One of, we call it one of its kind demand sensing engine. It collects data at internet scale. It's basically scraping data from various sources of inspiration and competition, which could be contextually relevant for you. And we gather lots of demand signals for each one of these products on an ongoing basis to come out with not just trends, winning trends, and winning trends in a contextual way. And trend for a particular geography need not be the trend for another geography. Therefore, the current ways of looking at color forecast of next year, that's too broad brush, right? It's not very contextual. For example, let's say trends for next season for the whole world. How can that be true? We don't see that in the demand patterns. For I think demand tells a very, very different story than what the supply is in all dimensions, from the higher levels of the product hierarchy to the lower levels up to the SKU level of demand. For that's a fundamental engine that brings all of the demand level insights. Now, I just want to take you through how a brand or retailer has used it and the kind of impact. For example, omnichannel brand, one of the brands that we use, where they improve their full price sell-through by 20%. Right now, what that means, it generates, in fact, it almost doubles the profitability. Otherwise, this 20% would have got 50% discount, which is 10%. And the EBITDA of fashion brands hovering around that mark across the world. For you, almost double the profitability by doing this and increase the revenue velocity by 30%. And why does this happen? It minimizes the combinations of attributes, the recipe that we use in making the products, and improve the probability. And it starts with the understanding and compared to traditional static research, it's a dynamic research. Therefore, your constant understanding of what's happening in the consumer space, which is very, very important, particularly during these uncertain times. As we know that while all of these predictions remain, we know it may not go in the same direction, so that you can make some fine tuning. And you can do this at internet scale. There are customers that we have where we enable them across 29 countries. And the brand is based in US. And how do you understand demand of each one of these countries so that you're very relevant in Japan, you're very relevant in Netherlands, very relevant in Germany, right? So that you're not having a holistic common assortment, but not at the same time, not very, very geo-relevant. Now, understanding these nuances is very, very important. So not only you take product decisions, you also take, of course, pricing is going to be a super critical attribute during this period, because inflationary time, one needs to also right price the product, not getting the attributes, but also right price the product. And of course, in season, you can take promotion decisions. For there is going to be a huge value unlock in investing in technologies which will help you understand consumers better. The idea is only your own data has limited knowledge, that getting the knowledge of what works for the market and what doesn't work, so that it's the intelligence of the crowd which will get into your overall decision accuracy. Now, if I have to go through, what are the key traits during these times, within an organization, one is, this is through various research, that those teams which are passionate about their consumers, and second is applying data and analytics in every area. And today we are talking about how do we bring in a lot of consumer intelligence into the design, merchandising, and buying process, and being extremely flexible. Now, these are times to improve the flexibility. We're already very flexible. The question is to go and raise the bar there, and using digital channels to understand, reach consumers, because the digital channels give us a lot more data than the rest of the channels, and hence using, in fact, for one of our customers, we are in the US market, we are able to do intelligence at the level of zip code. For we are able to geo-local understanding of taste of consumers, whether it is New York versus Alabama versus Denver. Now, that's the level of intelligence that one can get these days. And the question is to use that in the assortment creation process or a distribution creation process. Now, just want to share with you some of the numbers of whether a demand view of forecasting is better than supply view, right? Now, this is, we track some demand. This is 2021. I'm going to share also something very, very recent, and we are going to publish a report which will come very soon in our website. If one had followed supply versus demand in mini skirts as a category, right, and between 20 and 21, you can see the difference, right? Now, you can see almost 100% difference between supply and demand. While supply declined by 41% in luxury, demand declined by 82%. Now, this demand data is coming from our platform using that engine. And in the fast fashion market, we could see again, while it raised by 77%, but 133% from a demand perspective. There's an opportunity loss on one side, there's an excess inventory on the other side. Now, followed that through another season, similar results. If you just go, it's not about just having data. It's about asking, what is that platform we are using today? What does it tell us? Is it telling us supply? It's telling us demand. And our demand engine now has been validated by global brands and retailers. And we have an accuracy of 80% plus. Right now, of course, it's not 100% accurate, but we are deriving the demand. And this is an area that we constantly work on. But if you go with the current methods, your accuracy is around the 40 to 50% mark. It's almost close to coin toss. Now, the question is to elevate the insights that we are getting, which is getting into our entire creation process. Sorry, skipped a bit. In fact, one of our customers said, what are the impact, right? Now, you improve your bestsellers, right? Now, for example, one of our customers, fastest growing casual wear brands, had 2 to 3 bestsellers out of 10 products. Now they have 4 to 6 bestsellers, an absolute rate of sale. Right now, when you do that, you're going to lift the overall rate of sale of your assortment, and you're going to have lower number of poor sellers and mediocres in the entire assortment. Now, we talked about so far, how do you get our assortment accuracy? And the next one is about how do we improve the agility of assortment to customers, right? This is another case study where here we are now solving the how much problem. So we just spotted the market, understood the demand, made the assortment, now getting the demand prediction. And one of the biggest problem in fashion is predicting new product demand, right? Now, predicting continuing product is relatively easier. Of course, it's challenging with seasonality and uncertainties, but new product is a bit more difficult. For using our demand prediction engine, where the customer was able to see a 30% lift in their prediction accuracy, what that means is equivalent of almost doubling the profit as we see, because any accuracy difference here, either you have understock or overstock, and overstock goes through markdowns. And While, of course, there is always a skepticism of adopting any new model. And we don't promise. In fact, we ask our customers to try, right? Try maybe a small part of your business. Therefore, take it 10% of your business, adopt this, and we will show performance, and then we will slowly crawl, walk, and run. Now, this is the engine where imagine that you can throw a new product. It can actually give you what's the predicted demand and an ROS at different levels of your business hierarchy. Now, it uses, we have a proprietary engine which goes beyond traditional attributes, which also understand aesthetics, which can't be articulated in language. And that's a fundamental differentiation. And hence, we are able to create lift from the baseline. And just want to share with you the kind of accuracy, error reduction that we have seen. For example, this is forecast accuracy at customer need state level of one of our omnichannel brands, where the error used to be around 13%, and we are under 5% error over the last many months, and continues to work. It need not be 0.33, but definitely error within under 5%. For these are significant lifts. In fact, this particular customer, after seeing our prediction accuracy, has started to now buy purely on this forecast. And sometimes the forecast from the model is much higher than their forecast. Therefore, they are buying more. In fact, the business is growing. It's not about saving inventory. It's also about getting more business. Sometimes our own assessment of the future could be not as optimistic. That's how they did. They also adapted fast, and moving from quarterly forecast to now weekly forecast at multiple need states, over hundreds of need states on an ongoing basis, to do corrections across the value chain. The key impact areas are, as we discussed, inventory reduction, revenue growth, and profit. You can see anywhere between 20 to 40%. It depends on where your baseline is across our client base. Now, I just want to conclude by saying that to win during these times, advanced analytics is a key growth lever, right? And move from static ways to dynamic ways of understanding consumers across alternate data sources. Of course, we are one of those alternate data sources. You could definitely use as much as possible with your partners and get all of this data together to take informed decision. And keep doing everything with the North Star of consumer at the center. The probability that we will meet our goals will significantly increase, and you will gain a lot more market share purely because consumers are going to love your products and what you do. Thank you very much. And, if you really want to reach out, I'm at ganesh.subramanian@stylumia.com, and wish you all a wonderful day.
Good stuff, Ganesh. I think there's some questions to get into for the final few minutes of this. So it would be good to get your viewpoint on that. So one of them is about current inflationary pressures. As you might know, inflation is going up, especially here in the UK, more than most. Do you think that these current inflationary pressures will have a lasting impact on consumer demands and the trends around consumer demands?
No, absolutely. I think, as I mentioned before, there are two areas it will create an impact. All the forecasts are saying it's going to be definitely not a very, very short time. It's going to be 1 to 2 years. And second, this will make consumers to start buying, essential stuff more, and must have, and less of nice to have. What that would mean could be different for different customers, which means the assortment preferences, like we went through COVID, lots of leisure went up. So you're going to see a lot of those assortment shifts, which is going to happen. So if we have very long-term forecasts, make huge bets many months ahead, we might be in for some shock. For being agile, that's why it's very, very important. Adapting to changes is very important, and using data, dynamic data, to take these decisions all come together, right? That's one of the ways that you can minimize the setback.
Yeah. I know you showcase some of the examples from the real world use case of the consumer intelligence tool as well.
Yeah.
that was one of the questions that had come up, is if do you have any real world examples? So I guess some people always want to know which brands you're working with, but often when I host these spotlights, it's heavily protected, that kind of information, isn't it?
No, absolutely. I think, see, we do work with Fortune 100 brands and retailers, right, across various geographies, whether it's US, UK, Europe, and of course, we started with India, a fair amount of brands. The key use cases that people use our solutions for is, number one, is validating trends, right? How do I know whether the trend I'm choosing is in the right direction? Will it work or not? For what is the probability of winning? For de-risk at that level. Second is in-market opportunities, which is to say that what are the white spaces that which is in the market that are doing well that I missed. For capture those missed opportunities is another use case. And with recession coming in, pricing is a huge use case, right? How do I get my pricing right? For assortment pricing intelligence from a consumer demand perspective is another use case. We started with fashion. We're just going across categories right now. I just want to share one insight on, the forecast accuracy on color, right? We recently compared one of the color forecasts made by some leading agency, which many brands use. And we looked at all the color palette of 21 and their prediction for 22. And I just want to share, we're going to publish a report very soon. The accuracy of that forecast was 14.7%. Only 14.7% of the color predicted were sitting in the top deck of consumer performance, right?
Wait, sorry, just explain that figure to me.
We looked at all the colors forecasted by the agency. We said, okay, these are the 62 colors across various color groups, right? These are the colors that you should use. That was the recommendation. We went and studied actual consumer demand in the same season for prediction and said, what are the winning products and what are the colors associated with them? Converted all them into the same base, compared the colors, and then came out with this number. And then we actually looked at, from a purely demand perspective, if you have done the forecast from 21 to 22, we are getting 80% plus accuracy. For what I'm just saying is, using data, this is only color, right? And product doesn't sell well or not just because color is an important attribute, right? For we are going with a lot of forecasts which are not consumer driven. I'm not saying that the expertise and everything is not good, but the question is, how much of that is consumer data driven? The more and more we bring consumer data into our decision making, we improve the accuracy. I just want to elaborate that with a use case from real world. Hope that helps.
It really does. I mean, it's a staggering figure. How can you, I guess with sensing, you could demand sensing, that's how you up that figure, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we know what's reality. We know what the forecast was, and you can match colors with RGB and color codes and Pantones. Now you can actually see how much of them really panned out. I think what's very important is we are all responsible for our own forecast. And that's something, it's true for us. Anybody who sends out forecasts should also come back and say, this was our forecast. This is what has happened. This is how accurate we are. I think we really need to get transparent because we are all leading brands, because we are very responsible in giving information to brands to take decisions. And we also need to take ownership of what inputs we provide and how accurate or inaccurate they are. I think the intent is to also continuously improve, because if all of us become accurate, the industry becomes better. It's very earth friendly with minimal wastage.
Yeah, absolutely. Ganesh, thanks so much for your time today. Honestly, over 2 panel discussions and the presentation, you've really provided a lot of insight onto this. So I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Satan. And thanks, PI Apparel, for organizing this. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's been great. All right. Well, I know it's late there, so you won't go to sleep. So go and have a nice evening, and we'll see you soon.